Hi guys, welcome to week 20 gardening vlog. I don't know why, 20 weeks. Feels good to say that. So if you have never been here before, welcome to Seed to Plate channel. My name is Brooke. I am an urban gardener with 2 gardens. I have a community garden plot and then I also garden in my backyard. So if you already know who this is and why you're here, then we have a lot to talk about. That sounds dramatic. But it has been so rainy here all week that I basically haven't really been able to garden. It's kind of just one of those times where you just watch the garden and know that it's gonna start exploding very soon. But a couple of things. I found a squash vine borer inside my zucchini. Oh, I lost my mind. Because I had just been doing so much work to try and like get the eggs off the plants and all this stuff. And so I trimmed off a leaf and it like crawled out. I freaked out. I came out here in the rain to check on my plants. That's a squash vine borer who's in my plant. Plucked off a leaf and I found the little fucker. And so I sprayed some BT in the hole and then I actually wrapped the base of the plant in some foil. So we will see. We'll see if that worked. I think there might be a little zucchini growing on there. I also might need to hand pollinate because I'm not sure that they're getting properly pollinated. So there's just a lot going on with the squash. I did not realize how difficult it would be to grow squash in Texas because of these squash vine borers. I remember when I was a kid, the first garden that I remember we planted for Mother's Day one year. My mom wanted a garden and we planted so many zucchini plants. Like, I want to say it was like 5 or 6. We didn't really know like how much zucchini that would produce. And I just remember that whole summer we would pick zucchini and we would grate it and make zucchini bread, and you know, we were just trying to find ways to eat it. So I'm really excited about the zucchini, and I think I have an emotional connection to it that I want to save it really bad because of that. So that happened. I harvested a ton of peppers last weekend before all this rain hit. And also my tomato plants are growing out of control. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do to support them because they are well over 6 feet tall at this point. Can't tell you why. I think it had to be a combination of the compost and the cow manure I used. We've also had a ton of rain, and one thing that tomatoes like a lot is nitrogen. So between the composted cow manure, which is heavy in nitrogen, and then rain has a lot of nitrogen, like soluble nitrogen that is readily absorbed by the plant. So my plants are huge and it's a lot. So there's that. I'll show you all the plants here in a minute. But the other thing that I did was I harvested my garlic. So this was a little bit early to harvest. I need to let it dry, but it smells really good. So I feel very similarly about my garlic than I did with my onions. I did not let them be in the ground probably as long as they should have. They probably could have been in the ground another couple of months. I think this is what I've learned about myself. Garlic takes a really long time to grow, y'all. Like, I put it in the ground in October of last year. It's May. This is one of those things where like I don't garden to necessarily like replace my grocery bills. And everybody has different motivations for gardening. Does my gardening end up replacing some of my grocery bills? Absolutely. But here's how I think about it. This garlic took up a 4x4 foot space for 8 months. That's a really long time. So let's just call it 9 months. I should have pulled it at 9 months, which would be into June. I could have had 3 different crops of fast growing things. I could have had radishes. I could have had carrots. I could have had green beans. I could have had lettuce. I could have been harvesting out of that space a lot over the last 9 months that garlic's been taking up that space. So if I had like acres and acres of land and I had room to grow a bunch of garlic, would I grow garlic again? Yes. However, I'm an urban gardener. My space is very limited. Not as limited as some, but it is somewhat limited. So that is why I went ahead and pulled the garlic, and some of it's really small. It can all still be used, no problem. I've actually got to bring it inside and start to cure it. But this is my biggest head of garlic after 9 months of being in the ground. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like you try to grow something and sometimes it's just not worth it. And that's just kind of the way it goes. So now that we are into the middle of May, I have to start thinking about summer crops that are going to be very drought resistant. Might seem early, but if you live in a hot zone, it's time to start thinking about that stuff. So I think in that 4x4 foot space, I'm actually going to make that a little pumpkin patch. I'm going to do a blue pumpkin. So I'm going to start those seeds with you guys tomorrow, and then I'm also going to start a couple of melon seeds. And that is partly for my plot as well, because I had to chop down a bunch of my tomato plants because they got sick. So that is my plan for here. And then my cucumbers are really starting to climb and do well. However, cucumbers here are pretty short-winded, so they'll grow and they'll climb, but once our temperatures start hitting like the 90-100 degree mark pretty regularly, they won't really be able to survive. So on the trellises, I'm actually planning on growing loofah. Loofah does really well in the drought and the heat, and then we'll have the okra. And that's kind of the plan in terms of, you know, really hot crops, because they just don't do well. So here are the tomato plants. They are so tall. I'm thinking that I'm actually going to text my neighbor next door and see if he's really super handy, see if he has any creative ideas of like temporary things that we could like make the fence taller temporarily, because these tomatoes are still putting on blossoms, they're loaded down. The other option that I have is you can top tomato plants, like you can literally cut the tops off and then they'll just bush out, and the suckers will take over. I haven't decided how I feel about that yet. My friend over at Simple Sanctuary Garden, she has a YouTube channel, I'll tag it below. She was the one that suggested that, and maybe. Because here's the thing, my logic is tomatoes will not grow and their blossoms will just fall off after it hits 90 degrees. And we're like not that far away from that. I would say we're probably consistently 90 degrees starting in July. So really it's like, I think the blossoms that are on these like upper plants, those might be the last tomatoes that these things produce. So like what's the point in letting them grow taller? I don't know, I haven't decided yet. These plants are freaking just loaded. I mean, it's crazy. That's gonna be a big fat tomato. That's a Paul Robeson. And then we've got some big fat Brandywines. There's some San Marzanos in there. That one back there, those are my Cherokee Purples, and those have some massive tomatoes on them. So things are looking good for tomatoes. It's just the point where it's like your plants are completely loaded with tomatoes, but none have actually started to ripen yet. And so it just becomes the waiting game, waiting for them to ripen. Yeah, it takes what feels like forever. It's big and beautiful and lush, and I love it. But these Mexican torch sunflowers are taking all the sun from like my basil, and this peppermint really needs to be harvested. So there's definitely some cleanup that needs to happen in here, but I do love how much it's filled out and how just green and freaking amazing it is. Here are those big, beautiful, lovely zucchini plants that are currently covered in cucumber beetles. And there's my lovely fix to the surgery. That is, uh-oh, there's a beetle hanging out in there. I need to come through with some diatomaceous earth. This was where that vine borer was, and then I actually cut into the plant to make sure it wasn't deeper in there. And then I covered it with foil. So I think I'm actually going to take this foil off for right now. And it now looks like something else is living in there. So I'm going to get this with some diatomaceous earth. I've got cucumber beetles like crazy right now. And so I've got to kind of get those guys managed, but it's been so rainy. All of the diatomaceous earth that I put down just gets washed away. And I had a viewer who, very reliable viewer, tell me that wood ash works really well to like get rid of beetles and all of that stuff. So I need to search. We have a fire pit. I need to see if there's wood ash in the fire pit so that I can use that, because diatomaceous earth will hurt beneficial insects as well as the bad ones. It does not choose. So I'm gonna try wood ash and then go with diatomaceous earth. Here are all of my okras. I do have some blank spaces where some just like didn't quite take, especially over there. But they're getting their second leaves, and okra grows really fast, so that should be massive. And then here are all of my grow bag tomatoes with the Florida weave. I ran out of cotton twine, so these are due to get tied up here. They're very large. This one's pretty loaded. This is a black crim. Oh my, what are those things? Oh, what is that? It looks like poop of some kind. Gross. It looks like my Berry's Crazy Cherries are starting to blush. Maybe. We will see. So that's what's going on in the backyard garden right now. I may or may not make it over to the plot today. We'll see how my day goes. But definitely harvesting peppers. And I don't know why I have this like sneaking feeling that like, and this is what happened last year. It was like nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden I was completely overwhelmed with the harvest and like scrambling to try and figure out how to preserve it and what to do. So I have a feeling that that's coming again, but we'll see. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my kitchen table. We are inside today because it was very hot today. I actually went to the plot and picked a bunch of peppers. Did not take my camera with me because I was actually on some PTO today, some very much needed PTO. I don't take time off very often from my actual paid job. And so today was a day that I had some PTO pre-scheduled and just decided to not make any plans. And I'm one of those people that I always have a to-do list and I always have a plan. So when my boyfriend asked me this morning what I was planning on doing and I didn't have a plan was quite a shock to the system for him. But I did pick a big bowl full of peppers. So I kind of wish I would have a camera with me, but also it was really hot and it was just kind of gross out. But tons of shishito peppers. And if you haven't seen, I'll link the video. I filmed my favorite way to cook shishito peppers. My kitchen doesn't have very good lighting, so that's why I've kind of not done more cooking videos, but figured I need to get over that. And then we have some jalapenos. These are the non-spicy jalapenos. Now see, here's the problem, is if I pick a knotted pino and I also pick jalapenos at the same time, it kind of feels like Russian roulette. You don't really know what's what. So I actually think we want to try and make armadillo eggs with these, which is a stuffed jalapeno that is coated in sausage and then smoked. So those could be coming in our future very shortly here. And then also the serrano peppers have started to come in. So I decided that this was gonna be the year of the pepper, and the fact that I picked this giant bowl full of peppers today was like such a win. So feeling good about that, which is good because if you saw my video last week was a lot of garden failures, like successively one after another. So wanted to share this with you guys. I don't know that I fully have like my tips and tricks yet for peppers, but I do plan on doing like a little recap video at the end of the season of exactly what I did, because my pepper plants are huge and massive and very happy. Could also just be a good weather year. We've had tons of rain. So also, before anybody asks, I did pinch my peppers. So that's something that's kind of hotly debated, and I kind of debated doing it, but I went ahead and did it, and I don't know if that's the sole reason my peppers are kicking butt or what, but it's really good. Other thing that we need to do, and I figured I would just bring you guys along, is I'm gonna have a few blank spaces in the garden. So I chopped down some of my tomatoes, and I'm gonna have to pull out some of my squash that got ravaged by squash vine borers, some that I just wasn't able to save. So that gives me the opportunity to plant something else. Also, I pulled up all my garlic, so I've now got the middle 4x4 foot bed available. So, time to talk about the summer garden. Now, in the south, I'm in zone 8B in central Texas. Also, this is my very organized method of seeds. Just be more organized than me, please, for the love of God. There are so many good ways to organize your seeds. Don't be like me. So I did put this up to a vote on my Instagram, which I'm on Instagram almost every day, but not an obnoxious amount. So I did put it up to Instagram, and they chose the Jardale Blue Pumpkin. So that's what this looks like. And so this is definitely gonna get put in the garden. It's 110 days to maturity, so that is a very long time, but we have a really long growing season here in zone 8B, so it's mid-May right now. If I get these planted now, then May, June, July, August, September, October will be in the perfect time of the year for pumpkins. So the blue pumpkins are definitely getting planted. Also, I need to pull some more okra seeds. I had some of my okra seeds not really jump up, and I've just got these random like blank spots that are driving me insane. So we're gonna plant some of those. So these are the other pumpkins that oh no. Oh, balls. See, this is why you shouldn't do this. These Bells of Ireland seeds just dropped like all up in my whole thing because they weren't sealed. It's fine. So here's the other pumpkins that I'm gonna plant. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of seeds in here. This was from a seed swap. So this is a Jack B. Little pumpkin, and this was from Poppy's Pastures. So I'll try and find them on socials or something and put their info down below. This was a seed swap I got in the Whispering Willow seed swap back in the winter. So I'm gonna try and grow some of those Jack B. Little pumpkins. And then this was another one I got in the seed swap. This is a Honey Rock melon from Baker Creek. I'm not actually sure what these look like, so I'll put a picture up in the little guy here. I may try and do some more of these early prolific straight neck summer squash. I think our vine borer season is starting to wind down. They really only ravage your plants for like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. It's like really just like not that long, but they just create so much damage so fast. It's crazy. So, Hale's Best Jumbo Melon. I have no idea what that is. So I'll put another little description up there. But I know I have Kajari melon seeds because I got them in a seed swap and I was so excited. Okay, so these are Kajari melon seeds. Now, Kajari melons are something I didn't know about until I started watching Roots and Refuge Farm channel. So these are like little personal melons. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am not the biggest melon gal. I think melon is really, really sweet, and I tend to be on the savory side of things. So, yeah. I'm not really sure how these are gonna go. Last summer, let me just tell you a quick story about growing melons. Last summer, I decided that I was gonna try and grow watermelon. Now, I don't like watermelon. I've never liked watermelon. Not once in my life have I ever enjoyed eating a watermelon. It's kind of a texture thing for me. I just think they're really sweet. I've tried like multiple recipes. I've tried putting them with like feta and balsamic, and I've tried to figure out a way to balance that just pure sweetness that I don't really like, but also it's a texture thing for me. So last year, I thought to myself, okay, Brooke, you don't really like watermelon, but what if you grew it yourself? Valid thought. One would think that a normal person would grow one watermelon plant. It's not what I did. I grew 7 watermelon plants. Literally half my community plot was a watermelon patch. And the worst part about it, right? Like, that's not bad, right? Like, it's the heat of the summer, it's alive, it's like doing its thing, that's great. Yes, that's great. However, I cannot figure out how to pick a ripe watermelon. It is a skill that I do not possess, that I think just gets imparted on you if you like watermelon. If you're like me and you don't like watermelon, then the watermelon gods are like, you may not know our secrets. So frustrating. So I would go to pick these watermelons, and you know, you do the knocking, and then like the tendrils dried up, and you know, the yellow spot, it's been sitting there for like frickin' ever. I think out of at least 10 watermelons that I picked, I think maybe 3 of them were ripe. Okay, maybe. And they were all the sugar babies. They were all like the sugar baby watermelons. So I didn't even like them when they were ripe. And then they just made me mad because I couldn't figure out when to pick them. So I have a bit of a thing against melons, which I know is kind of like a crime, right? Like, I'm in the South, like we grow melons. Like, melons grow so well here because they love the heat. So I'm giving melons a try. I gave away all of my watermelon seeds. I put them all in the seed swap from Whispering Willow Farms. I just donated my watermelon seeds. So if you got Sugar Baby watermelon or any type of watermelon seed from the Whispering Willow Farms swap and it had my name on it, you're welcome. I hate watermelon. So I've got 3 different kinds of melon. And I could actually probably grow all of these at my plot because now I'm actually gonna have to chop down another tomato plant from Curly Leaf Iris. So that means I have 4 out of 10. So good. So I'm gonna have to chop down another one, which means I'm gonna have even more space. Now, something that I like to think about because I am in the South is things that are very drought resistant and drought tolerant. Okra, great thing to grow, very drought resistant. Pumpkins and like vines and stuff like that, very drought resistant. I need to find some loofah gourd seeds because the cucumbers here, they don't do well once it starts getting in the 90s, which we're not too far away from. So like cucumber harvesting season here is like, in my experience, maybe 30 days, maybe a little bit longer, but they just really don't do well here in the heat. Mine petered out last year pretty quick. So I'm planning on pulling those once it gets too hot, probably in like July, and I'm gonna plant some loofahs. Loofahs do really well in the heat. The other thing that does really well in the heat here in Central Texas, Zone 8B, is sweet potatoes. I'm not growing sweet potatoes. I don't really like eating sweet potatoes that much. The only way I like them prepared is if they're spicy or if there's ranch. Again, going back to like, I don't really like the over sweetness just to be sweet. I need some like balance of flavor happening. So this is what we're gonna plant. Jacoby little pumpkins, blue pumpkins, very excited about. And we're also going to do some summer squash to see if we can recoup any of the plants that I lost from squash vine borers. So that's kind of where things are at here at the garden and what we're gonna be planting. The summer garden here, you can do a summer garden in a really hot zone. You can do it. You just need to pick varieties that are gonna do well in the heat. And then also thinking about my two different gardens, because I have the community plot, which gets hammered by the sun. I mean, it basically has 10 to 12 hours of sunlight. Like, there's not that much time that my plot in particular, where it's located at the garden, doesn't get sun. So growing stuff like melon vines and pumpkin vines and things like that, stuff that's gonna cover the ground and like really retain the moisture, that's kind of my goal at the community plot. At the house, things are a little bit different. This garden does not get sun until probably 9 a.m. and the sun just disappeared and it's like 4 p.m. So this garden doesn't really get blasted with that like late afternoon heat, because here in Texas, that's when it is the hottest, is in the like late afternoon, early evening, as it starts to actually, the sun goes down. That's when it's like nasty outside. So when your plants get nailed with that, it's kind of hard for more like tender things to grow, like a summer squash. So that's kind of the theory behind why I'm planting what I'm planting and what varietals I'm going to be planting. And I think our weather, it probably changed. That's what happens in Texas. The weather changes every 5 minutes. So we basically have chance of rain for the next 5 days. Okay? So much rain. It's been raining here forever. It's just never gonna not be raining, which is good because the rain actually provides a lot of like soluble nitrogen immediately to the plants, which is why the plants, excuse me, I'm actually going to be starting all of these inside. Now, this time of year, you can really direct sow pretty much anything. However, what I've experienced just over the last few weeks of rain, anything that I've direct sown has not gotten enough direct sunlight for it to grow properly. So like every time I've direct sown something over the last couple of weeks when it's been like ridiculously rainy, it gets leggy and then it falls over because it's raining every single day and it's such heavy cloud cover that the actual plant is literally just not getting enough sunlight. So what I'm gonna do, especially squashes and melons, they tend to take off pretty fast. So I'm just gonna start them under some grow lights, like out in the garage on my rack, and just kind of make it a little easier on myself, give the plants a little bit of a better head start, and then go from there. So normally in a non-ridiculously rainy May, I would just direct sow everything. But that's just what I've experienced, and so I don't really like wasting my seeds. This was kind of like a weird vlog because we just have had so much rain that like I just haven't really been able to like actually do too much inside the garden. But thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And like I said, if you want a really good preparation of some shishito peppers or any pepper that's like not really hot, I put that video on my channel. By the time you're seeing this, it will have been 2 days ago. And I will link that video. Would love it if you would give it a watch. I'm going to start doing a series called Garden Eats, where I actually show you how I cook the things that come out of the garden, because that's something I feel really passionately about. So let's look forward to pumpkins and okra and melons and squash and It's summer, y'all. We are in the thick of it, and I'm just waiting for tomatoes to ripen. I'm much more excited than I was last week because I had to painfully chop down all those tomato plants, but it's past us. We did it, and we're moving on. And I'm not even still bitter about it at all. Except I am. All right, y'all. Happy gardening. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week.